Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jess, Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Okay, so exciting episode today because we're talking all about numbers, which are basically my favorite things ever. I get very, very excited when it comes to talking about numbers. And so this episode is all about metrics that matter and the actual numbers that you should be tracking in your business and why you should be tracking them and why it shouldn't be the terrifying experience that maybe you imagine that it is. Or maybe that indeed it is at the moment, okay? So tracking numbers isn't always fun, but if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. And I firmly stand by this. So I was thinking to myself the other day, I went out for breakfast with a couple of friends, and we were actually talking about our lives in the real business world. So I'm doing air quotes, obviously. But we got to talking about sales in a brick and mortar business. A lot of my friends are still working in brick and mortar businesses, or they are helping companies build up their own profit margins. They're working in procurement divisions. They're doing fierce, powerful things in big corporate conglomerates, and they really enjoy it, right? A lot of them really, really enjoy it. But we got to talking about a particular meeting, and one of my friends was laughing because they had just recently hired a business graduate. Okay, so this person had graduated from university or college for our American potties. They just graduated with a business degree, and they were sat in this important business meeting that happens once a month in this corporate company. And they had been introduced to everybody as being super bright, and they were, really excited about starting. And then the meeting gets underway, and the first thing that they talk about in this particular meeting is numbers. Right, is the metrics. How are we doing? And the director starts talking about the P&L. And this business graduate, God love her, puts her hand up. And when he says, "Oh, do you have a question?" she says, "Yeah, what's a P&L?" And we at the table, we laughed. We were like, "Oh my goodness, how can you not know what a P&L is?" And then I sort of thought, oh my God, a lot of people do not know what a P&L is. So if you're sat there thinking, Jess, I've never heard of a P&L, don't worry. It's called a profit and loss sheet, and it basically is just the outline of how your business is doing, where you're making profit, what your expenses are, and it gives you like a top line overview of the profit and loss inside your business or inside a division that you're working in. But it got me thinking about small business owners and how often we actually track the metrics, and do we know what we're supposed to be tracking, and do we know why it's important? Because there are so many small business owners who are coming to me and they're saying, "Jess, I need to make more money. I need to make more money." And I'm saying to them, "Okay, cool. Why?" And they're saying, "Because there's just not enough for me to pay myself." And these are people who are having multi-5-figure months. They're making 10K, 20K, sometimes even 30K a month, but their expenses are vast. Okay. They're running these businesses. They have huge operating costs. And so it's making it really hard for their business to make any profit. And it's a problem that can be really easily solved just by knowing what your numbers are and what you really need to look at. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I am not a financial advisor, and you can go into this way more extensively. And in fact, I am pretty sure that at some point in the future, I'm going to bring somebody who is an accountant or somebody who's good with money and numbers to kind of come in and talk to you guys about what you really do need to look at and what's important, okay? I'll find a fun accountant, don't worry. It's not going to be anyone who's like super dry and like, "Oh, money is dull and monotonous and we're not interested," because that's not how we roll. So these are my top tips on the metrics that you should be tracking, why you should be tracking them, and what difference it's actually going to make to your bottom line, because that's really what we care about. So I guess the first question that we need to start with is, do you currently track any metrics in your business? If you're honest with yourself, if you're listening to this in the gym, walking the dog, in the car, just think about that for a second. Do I actually track my metrics? And if I do, how regularly do I do that? So you might be thinking, well, Jess, it's all right for you because you've probably got like Excel spreadsheets coming out of your ears, and you're probably, got all these bookkeepers and accountants to do it for you. And you would not be wrong. There are indeed Excel spreadsheets in my business. I do indeed have a fabulous accountant called Justin, who is the nicest man on the planet. However, metrics tracking is something that I do daily in my business. And I was actually really surprised recently when I was with a group of established business owners, and we were having a conversation over dinner, and we were talking about the things that you do in your business to make more money. And so everyone was like, oh, Jess, like, how do you get more clients, and how do you make more money, and how do you charge more for your services? And I was like, well, firstly, I look at my metrics, and literally 40% of the people kind of went, what? And I was just like, oh, I'm going to be so popular talking about the boring stuff, because metrics really are. They are the first indicator, and they're the first way that you can tell how you can increase your bottom line, how you can identify the gaps. So let's start looking at what you actually need to be tracking. So the first thing that I always track, and daily, is revenue. Okay? And I'm going to give you the overviews, and then I'm going to give you some of the subcategories that I also track, because yes, you can get very OCD about metrics, and honestly, it really does become addictive after a while. Like you get really addicted to tracking your numbers and knowing where you are and being able to see your growth trajectory, because the great thing about measuring your metrics is that when you start measuring, things start changing, you start growing, and it's like, this is ridiculous. Okay. So the first thing is always revenue. Revenue comes first. Your business, if it's not making money, is a very expensive hobby, and it cannot afford to be. Okay. Not if you want to make your bank manager happy, not if you want to not eat pot noodles for the rest of your life, all of those things. So revenue comes first. It's the first thing that I track every single day. And I do every single day. I look at our revenue in the morning, and then I finish up at the end of the day and I look at what money has come in. Now, I must admit I'm super lazy about this. I don't necessarily go into every single email that PayPal sends me or that Stripe sends me and says, hey, this is, so-and-so paid £45. I have a checkout tool called Thrivecart. If you want to use Thrivecart as a payment processor, you're more than welcome to go into the show notes. You can grab a link and go and check it out. It's awesome. But at the end of the day, I can run a report every single day or every single week or every single month to tell me exactly how many payments we've processed through Thrivecart, how much money has come in, what's left to actually appear, like all of that kind of stuff. It's really, really useful. So every day I track revenue, what money has come into the business, and then I break it down into a couple of little subcategories. Okay. And I look at the subcategories probably once every 3 months, because some of them don't need to be looked at every single day, and some of them, it's a 90-day change period, right? So if some of them are not where I want them to be, then I can give myself 90 days grace to change them and make it look different, okay? So some of the subcategories I look at when it comes to revenue are, what are my net profit numbers? So how much am I making after expenses have been taken out? What is my gross revenue? And from that, I can look at, am I investing too much in certain areas? Am I not investing enough? Is there anything that I could be investing in that would make the business run more efficiently, more effectively, and be more cash rich? The other subcategories that I look at are things like client retention and attrition. So how many repeat buyers are we getting? How long are we keeping people engaged in sales processes for? And in fact, me and my CRO, Liz, sat down a couple of weeks ago and looked at the average spend of customers with us in the first year, and actually the average product purchase. Okay, so the average person purchases 7 products a year through my business, and the average person will go on to spend around £20,000 with my business to help them make their business more successful. Now, this is really important, not just from a revenue perspective, but if you are somebody who's bought 7 products over the last year, thank you. I appreciate you, please know that. But also, more importantly, it's about what kind of experience we're giving to clients. And so for me, one of the best ways to judge, are we giving the best experiences, is to judge, are people coming back? Are we able to continuously serve them? Are we providing enough levels of service, for people who are able to work their way through the system? And are they actually enjoying working with the Smart Leaders Sell business team as a whole? And it looks like they are. Okay, so we have a 74% retention rate, which is really, really good. Really, really good. It's something I'm actually really proud of. And if it was one of those sexy things that businesses shout about, I would be shouting about it. Like, I'd be all over Facebook being like, oh my goodness, we have a 74% retention rate, or like a repeat buying rate. And people would be like, oh, Jess, that's so not sexy. I might do it just to see what happens. But yeah, so client retention is important and can help you not only from a revenue perspective, but also from that experience perspective. How many people are we retaining? Are we really serving our customers to our best ability? Are they enjoying working with us? And then another thing that I look when I'm breaking that revenue category down is the average transaction value. And again, because I'm lazy, I totally look at Thrivecart for this. So I run reports and I look at how much the average person is spending with us each time they are purchasing anything. Okay. So you can, a really, really easy way to make more money in your business is to just increase your average transaction value. And that's actually something that I learned when I was working in retail. So when I first started out as a bright, sunny 16-year-old on that jewelry counter, one of the first things that my boss said to me was, look, we don't get much footfall. Okay. We don't get that many people who come into the store. So in order to make your target, you need to sell the people who do come in, you need to sell them more stuff. You need to increase your average transaction value. And so we used to have competitions in the store. We would write on post-its and we'd be like, who can get their average transaction value to £45 or £50? And actually it was quite hard. Okay. I'm just going to throw this out there. When I was 16, I started working for a jewelry company and the average person was coming in was buying $9.99 creoles. Like $9.99 gold-plated creoles. So to get your average transaction value to £45 was quite a lot of work. Like you had to sell a decent watch, or you had to sell some kind of necklace plus earrings plus bracelet and do all that kind of thing to make sure that you were making that money up. So one of the quickest ways that you can use your metrics to help you bring up that bottom line revenue is actually to increase your average transaction value. So if you notice the average person is spending £50 with me, and actually I want to be making an extra however much per year, then if I just increase the average transaction value to £200, I'd be working 4 times less hard, but actually earning more money. So that might be a case of raising your prices and increasing your average transaction value that way. It might be a case of selling them more stuff. So what is congruent? What could you sell them as like a tripwire or an upsell or a downsell? Is there anything else that you could help them purchase that would raise that average transaction for you? Okay. The second metric that matters that I track in my business really stringently is branding and visibility. And I take this really seriously and I get very competitive with myself every month over all my metrics. But this one in particular, because when I started out, I remembered being like really, really jealous of all these people who had these huge audiences, and business seemed so much easier for them. Does anyone else think that? I still think that. I still have a tiny audience in comparison to a lot of my peers. The difference is that I convert a lot better than a lot of my peers. And I say that with all due reverence and respect. Like, you know, I have some amazing colleagues in this industry, but my conversion rates are through the roof. So I don't need to have a massive audience. However, I do always need to make sure that my audience is consistently growing, that I am funneling new quality leads into the business, and that they are the right people who are able to be in front of the right offers and convert really well. Because we know, like, sales requires 2 things. It requires traffic, so i.e. the branding visibility metric, and also the right offers to be in front of the right eyes. Okay, so if we can solve a traffic problem, it means that, guess what, you've just got to put the right offer in front of them, sell regularly, and you're going to be able to increase that revenue. All right. So again, I break this down and I look at it in quite a granular way, but I don't track branding and visibility every day. I track that on a weekly basis. So I look every week, how much have we grown the audience this week? Have we grown the email list, and by how many or by what percentage? Have we added more people into the Facebook community? How many, what percentage? How many more podcast listeners have we got? And this is really exciting. So for me, I want to share this with you guys because it's actually a really cool thing to track long term. When we looked at January 2018 for podcast listeners, we had, and compared it to January 2019, we had a 600% increase in listeners in 1 year, right? So January 2018 to January 2019, we had 600% increase in listeners. That's pretty big. Like, that's a big number. And yes, it took me a whole year. And actually, there are certain things, that you have to be incredibly grateful for. And one of the things that I'm incredibly grateful for is that people allow me to kind of get into their earbuds week after week and talk their ears off about things that I find really interesting. But it's interesting that the podcast has grown so rapidly over such a short time period, when in fact my Facebook group, which is where I was talking to you guys last year and saying, yeah, do you know what, Facebook, it's just not really floating my boat. I'm going to use it as more of a spin-off, and I'm going to use it to start conversations and help my community as and when, but the podcast, my email list, that's where I'm really going to focus. The Facebook group hasn't really grown. Right? It hasn't really grown. It's grown by about 11% in comparison to 600%. Okay, so what you do, when you're looking at increasing your visibility, do what you enjoy, because ultimately that's going to help, again, bring better results. And if you're enjoying it and if you're bringing in more leads doing it, then guess what? You're going to convert more of those leads and you're going to make more sales, which is going to help you skyrocket that revenue. The other thing to look at with branding visibility is, where are your bad leads coming from? And I don't like using the word bad because it's like, oh, but it's true. We have to start thinking about, where are leads that aren't as high quality? Where are they coming from? So recently I was talking to a couple of clients of mine who were saying, we've had this huge uptick in traffic, all coming from Pinterest. And that's great. We've got loads, like literally thousands of people coming to the website. We've had this massive increase of traffic, but they don't buy anything. They don't opt in for anything, and they don't convert. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that actually, either content that's going out to attract those people isn't hitting the mark, or it tells us that that platform might not be the best place for those people to find their clients. Okay, if you're getting thousands and thousands of visits and nothing is converting, then the traffic that is coming across is most likely to be the wrong traffic, as opposed to something is not converting with your landing pages. Okay, especially if in other areas things are working. So track those pieces of your branding and visibility. How many times are you showing up? Where are you getting in front of clients or potential clients? What are you doing to build your brand? How are you building your audience? How many people are you adding to your audience each week, each month, each quarter, each year? And are they converting? So the other thing I would say about this is that you've got to play to your strengths here and what you enjoy doing. So I was saying to my team, one of the things that I really suck at is coming across well on social media. I'm just too blunt. I don't care. And I kind of just say whatever I want to at any given time. And I'm not filtered about that. And, sometimes that works really well on social media. And sometimes because of the inconsistency that I do it with, it can either go really well or really badly. And I'm inconsistent on social media because I don't enjoy it. The only thing I'm consistent with at the moment is Instagram stories. And that's because they're fun. I can do those. It's really easy. And I love it when people reply to an Instagram story. Seriously, it makes my day. I get a little message and I'm like, oh my goodness, someone messaged me on Instagram, and I get so excited about it. But the whole Facebook soup, I'm over that. Like, I'm done. I don't want to be in that kind of crowd where everyone's vying in the newsfeed for all this stuff. And so it's not a strength of mine. But what I'm great at is getting in front of people and talking to them. So I'm great if I can be in their ears. So I'm great on podcasts. I'm great at, being a guest on a podcast. I'm great at going on TV, even though you have to do hair and makeup to go on TV. 4 a.m. starts with hair and makeup. Not my ideal, but whatever. And I'm good at speaking in front of crowds of people. Those are my strengths. Being able to talk to people, being able to build a relationship with my words and actually speaking my words as opposed to writing them down. That is a skill for me. That is a strength. And so actually, when I looked at the audience building that we'd been doing and some of the things that were working really well and some of the things that weren't working so well, the podcast having a 600% increase in listeners, guess what? I was playing to my strength. The 11% growth on the Facebook group, yep, I was inconsistent. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to focus on it. And so I didn't. And it didn't work as well as we wanted it to. Okay, so I think, when it comes to branding visibility, when it comes to tracking those metrics, you've got to get granular about, A, what you're tracking in the first place, B, what it's contributing in terms of revenue and leads, and also C, what are your strengths? Are you actually playing to them? Are you, using the strengths that you have to generate the best quality leads that you can? And if you're not, can you change it? And knowing those metrics, knowing those branding and visibility metrics will help you identify what actually works well for you. It's really interesting for me. I have an amazing client and she had her best month ever in December. I was so proud of her because she'd had this best month ever. And the best thing about it was that she said, I don't feel like I did the thing. I stepped back. I stopped doing XYZ things that I'd been focused on for so long. And she'd been doing lots and lots and lots of content creation activity and different active content generation. And she'd stepped back from it for a month and she was like, and suddenly I have my best month ever. And I'm like, yeah, well, sometimes when we look at the things that are working and we actually analyze where are these quality leads coming from and how are we attracting them, it's not necessarily in the way that we think. And we can get caught up in it because the news feed's really noisy. And so we think, if everyone else is being really, really noisy, then if I'm going to get better results. But that's not always the case. If you're not playing to your strengths in the first place, and actually you then suddenly step back and you go to do one particular activity or two particular activities that you're really, really good at and that you're totally skilled around, your audience will get a lot more from it and it will convert a lot better. And that's what this particular client found. She went on, she had her best month ever, and she's continued that into January and beyond. And it's just looking amazing for her, and I'm incredibly proud. Okay. So branding and visibility is really important. And then the final metric that I track is learning and development. And this is something that I think can be a little controversial in the online space because people often think learning and development is going out and hiring the next coach, the next mentor, learning about the next big social media platform, the next marketing platform, whatever that looks like. And actually for me, it's never really been about that. It's about learning and development so I can be a better coach. How can I provide a better experience to my clients? How can I master my craft so that I can get even better results for the people who are paying to work with me? And so that's where learning and development comes to me. And I do it in a personal way and a professional way. So personally, I have goals. Last year, you might have heard, I moaned about it on the podcast enough, that I was on a real gym kick and I was trying to lose some weight and I was really focusing on my health. And I did. I lost like 6 kilos, I think it was, in 8 weeks. And it was phenomenal because I was focusing on it, because I was tracking it. In a professional term, some of the things that I track when it comes to learning development is, what am I doing to A, master my craft, and B, what kind of results are my clients getting? Because if my clients are getting better results and they're continuing to perform well and they're continuing to, stand out in their industry as leaders and generate key revenue, then I'm doing my job right. And I'm clearly learning and developing consistently, and my clients aren't just plateauing at a certain level. Whereas if I'm not taking in new skills, if I'm not learning how to be a better coach, my clients will start to stagnate. They will start to plateau. They won't get the results that I really want them to achieve. And ultimately that can put a limit on the client levels that you work with. If you find that you're not learning and developing as a coach or a consultant or a service provider, you will find that you end up working with the same level of clients over and over and over again. And sometimes what that can do is actually stop your revenue because you are bottlenecked at a certain price point. You can't charge any more because then you'd be outpricing your ideal clients, and you are at a bottleneck in terms of how much you can earn, because obviously you're at a point in your business where you literally are at full capacity for taking on clients. So in that case, sometimes we have to step up that learning and development and look at what else we can master or the next level that we can go to serve our clients even better. Okay. And again, if you start tracking this, if you start measuring these metrics, it can be as simple as how many books have I read? How many personal development books have I read, or how many professional development books have I read, or, what professional development skills or qualifications have I got this year? And what has that led to for my clients? Has it led to a better experience? Has it led to them getting better results? And once you start tracking those things, you are able to see how it contributes to your bottom line revenue. So if you're somebody who's gone out and spent, literally thousands on different courses and certifications for kind of teaching and CIPD and all that kind of stuff, then, and your clients aren't getting better results, then you need to look at, well, actually, do I need to be spending my time, money and energy in those areas of personal and professional development, or do I need to spend it elsewhere? And that might be in, learning about your own sales skills, your own marketing skills, or something that's going to help you generate more clients or get better results for your current clients. Okay. Now, if you do get stuck on tracking metrics, remember you can buy my planner. So if you're somebody who's like, Jess, this all sounds great. I need to start tracking my metrics. I need to know how big my audience is getting, and I need to know how to convert them and remind myself to sell and do all that cool stuff. You can go to smartleadersell.com/shop and you can grab the Smart Leaders Sell Planner. It's a 90-day planner, so it doesn't have any dates in it. You can literally start it whenever you want and start changing your sales game, but you can go ahead and do that. And just on a final note, metrics matter in your business because ultimately every single metric you track will always lead you back to revenue. So if you are currently at a plateau in your business, and you're thinking, well, how do I make more money? Instead of going and looking at what can I create next? What new offer can I put out there? How can I raise my prices? All that kind of stuff. Go back to your metrics first. Where are my leaks? Where are my gaps? Where are the holes in my business? What is the reason that I've bottlenecked at this revenue? Have I stopped growing my audience and so I don't actually have anybody else left to sell to because I've saturated my existing audience? Am I selling at the right price? Could I increase my average transaction value? Is it really, really low? Am I suddenly giving out way more refunds than I was before? Am I having clients ghost me after they've, gone through the discovery call and then they're just not paying? And start looking at those metrics, call conversion rates, audience conversion rates, growth rates. And from that, you're going to be able to understand where those gaps are and actually fix them a lot quicker and really, I don't know what the phrase is, concrete up the holes. Concrete up the holes before you go out and try and sell more. Because whilst I'm a massive, massive fan, obviously, of going out and selling more, you can't always just make more money. Sometimes you have to look at where the existing gaps are and plug those so that when you go out there, when you make more money, it's actually being retained in your business and it's benefiting you and increasing your profit margins as opposed to just paying for a ton of extra costs. If you've enjoyed this episode and you've learned something new, make sure you hit me up on Instagram where I am currently hanging out. And tell me what your key takeaway was from this episode. And again, if you do want to grab the Smart Leader Sell 90-day planner, you can head over to smartleadersell.com/shop and you can grab it in gold polka dot or black and gold if you're feeling swish and suave as opposed to spotty and dotty. I hope you have an epic week. I will see you in the next episode. It's going to be a goodie. We're talking about ghosting, so make sure you catch that. I'll see you on Wednesday.